Hi everyone, Namaste. This is Anjali Kochhar. Welcome back to my channel Tookwings blog by Anjali Kochhar. So today's podcast was not just about important and interesting subjects such as HR and tech, human resource and relationship of HR with the organization. How should you be to be an HR? How tech is evolving and how leadership roles are evolving. Not just all about those concepts, but it was a very humanly conversation, very soothing conversation, and a conversation that you tend to remember. This conversation was with Miss Sonica Aron, who is the founder and CEO of Marching Sheep. So I would say that you must listen to this podcast and you will have a great day after that, and you will learn a lot, and very in a story like format you will learn so many great things. So yeah, let's just watch it. Hi Sonika, welcome to Kahaniyaan by Tookwings blog. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Great. So, today we'll be discussing a lot about the modern business landscape and how things have evolved over the years, and how diversity and inclusion is more, prominent in today's business landscape. We'll discuss and deep dive into a lot of those concepts. But before that, at Tookwings, we have a tradition that we start our, podcast with a story.
All
One
right.
story, one story that defines you, maybe or may not be around your brand, but something that makes you you.
There isn't one story. I think you become you over a period of time.
Right.
But I think, a series of experiences and incidents
Right.
that revealed to me that I am happiest when I am, or I am at most comfort when I am being my authentic self. And I remember there was this one time when I am an introvert and I used to feel that I'm not a very good speaker.
Mm.
I used to hesitate from taking a lot of speaking roles in my job, in my workplace. And then I had, in one of my jobs, I had just joined Hutch at that time. It is now Vodafone. And I was having my first review.
Mm.
And my immediate manager and the CHRO at that time, they gave me feedback that I was very good at communication, drafting communication, presenting things. And I was like, no, I'm not. And they said, it is actually your strength and you should use it more
Mm.
often. And it came as a bit of a surprise to me. And I was like, okay, the complete lack of self-awareness. And that was when I really started exploring that side of myself, of articulating what I feel, of putting it across very confidently without any fear.
Mm.
Uh, and I would like to use the word irreverent.
Mm.
Sometimes, uh, when we started our career,
Mm.
let me say that, I started my career almost 23 years back.
Mm.
And our cultural upbringing is that you respect your elders, you respect people who are senior to you. Uh, it is assumed that they will have more knowledge because they have more experience.
Right.
Now in India, there is experience and age is also sometimes linked to designations.
Right.
So the greater the designation, you need to give them respect.
Mm.
And very soon I realized that it has to be merit over designation.
Right.
And if I have a point to make, whether I'm speaking to the CEO or anyone,
Right.
I don't need to feel hesitant
Mm.
simply because I don't have a director attached to my designation. If I have to make a point, I will make a point. Worst case scenario, it will be shot down, but at least I would have spoken.
Mm.
So I think this realization makes me me. So today, even when I speak at conferences or I'm speaking right now or on TV,
Hmm.
I speak my mind without any hesitation. And I think it has been received well.
No, that's great. And one point you brought up about being an introvert and then realizing that, you are a good communicator as well. You are good at communication. This is, I think, widely discussed as well. Recently I had a podcast with one of the industry leaders, and he also told me that he has been an introvert all his life, and now his business and that day we were talking about corporate communication, and he was an expert in corporate communication. So that was a irony of the situation, and that's great.
Mm.
So,
In
right,
there is a misconception that if we have to succeed in the corporate world, we have to be extroverts, we have to go and meet, make a lot of friends, and I think it is all about authenticity and doing your job well and making your presence felt at the right place at the right moment. It has nothing to do with introversion and extraversion.
right.
So, anyways, please carry on.
Right, right, absolutely. Now, coming to the modern business landscape, if we come into the subject we are going to discuss, so coming to the modern business landscape, how do you think that over the past decade, or over the past 2 decades, things have changed? How things have evolved? How today's leaders are taking up the leadership roles compared to the leaders who have been who started off some decade ago.
Hmm. So there is a world of difference. Um, I will not even go into 2 decades. Let's even talk about 1 decade. Let's talk about from 2013 to now. And I started marching sheep in 2013.
Hmm.
Okay, from then to now,
Hmm.
so much has happened.
Hmm.
Um, if we look at the business landscape,
Hmm.
right from GST implementation to demonetization to COVID to the way technology has advanced, I think businesses have been undergoing transformation to keep pace with changes, external changes all the time, right? They have to keep pace in terms of the processes, they have to keep pace in terms of agility, they have to keep pace in terms of technology adoption, they have to keep pace in terms of consumers, the kind of products consumers or services consumers or customers, clients are expecting. Then the focus of investors in terms of sustainable processes and so on and so forth. I mean, today, yesterday I was at a client site, and we were saying that today, when an investor
Hmm.
is looking at investing in any organization, the first thing that they want to look at is HR processes.
Right.
They want to see whether you are focusing on diverse talent, whether you are focusing on learning and development, whether you are focusing on basic safety, hygiene, and so on and so forth. So it is very, very different. That is one. What could be seen as good to do, what could be seen as priority 4, 5 is no longer priority 4, 5 or good to do. It is a business imperative,
Hmm.
right? So that's one. The second big shift that I see is in the workforce demographics. As you said, how the generation today.
Hmm.
See, when I started my career, we had people at the mid management who would have been 10 to 15 years older than us. And they would have people at top management who would be another 10, 12 years older than them.
Hmm.
But I don't recall us having any generational stereotyping or discussion happening like these youngsters or these oldies. I mean, it wasn't like that. But, when all this research around millennials and everything started,
Hmm.
that is when all this stereotyping also began.
Hmm.
And this thing about this is how millennials behave, they want feedback in this form, they want work life balance, they want open offices, they want more transparency, they want recreation rooms, ping pong tables, bean bags, and this and that. And then came Gen Z.
Hmm.
Okay, now Gen Z is possibly the youngest generation that has entered the workforce, and then there is stereotyping around them that they are completely technologically savvy, they only want to do things digitally, and they don't want to dirty their hands, they are in a hurry for growth, they don't want to do things traditionally, they don't show respect, they don't have loyalty, and all sorts of things that I hear from clients. Now let's understand one thing. Let's look at, different behavioral scientists have put in different years, but broadly, if we see 1980 to 1995, broadly, is when they say millennials are born.
Right.
Now, somebody who was born in 1980 would today be 44 years of age.
Hmm.
Somebody who was born in 1995 would be between 28 and 29 years of age.
Right.
The entire population between 28, 29, and 44, they
Hmm.
cannot have the same mindset,
Yes.
same career priorities,
Hmm.
same way of working, same way of looking at life.
Hmm.
Similarly, when we look at Gen Z,
Hmm.
there is further intersectionality of
Hmm.
what is the background, where have they studied, is it are they from metros, mini metros, tier 1, tier 2 cities, what is their level of education, are they graduates, postgraduates, are they doing doctorate, are they at management level, what is the level of responsibility that they have, what kind of families they come from. I think there is a huge difference when it comes to really understanding people. That's one. So today, when we talk about other countries, because Marching Sheep also works across the globe in more than 50 countries, you know, other countries have an aging work population. India has a young work population.
Hmm.
It is expected that by 2025, 70+% of your workforce would be Gen Z and Gen Y, millennials and zillennials.
Hmm.
Now, this population, see, when we were studying, we did not have the luxury of opening up a browser and saying, what are the options available? What
Hmm.
are the different career options? Can I do a course online? Can I increase my employability by doing 10 courses online at my own pace?
Hmm.
Which this generation has, right? Now, all of these people, when they come into the workforce, they will naturally be in a hurry,
Right.
because they say that I don't need to follow the traditional 3 years in one role kind of a route to get my next promotion, because I am willing to work hard and learn very fast.
Hmm.
You give me the opportunity, you give me the exposure, at least have a conversation with me.
Right.
The question that begs an answer is that, is the leadership
Hmm.
changing at the same pace?
Hmm.
There used to be a term called bulletproof manager,
Hmm.
right? Which meant that as a manager or a leader, I could not show any weakness in my armor, no chink in my armor. I had to know it all. And you have to listen to me. I had to be controlling. I had to be demanding. I could be aggressive with you,
Hmm.
right? If you were reporting into me. But today, the workforce says that I want a manager who is my ally in my journey of growth.
Hmm.
I want a manager who listens with empathy. I want a manager who helps me plan. I
Hmm.
want a manager who helps me learn and grow.
Hmm.
So, the leadership qualities which are expected in today's time and age, where
Hmm.
on one side your workforce demographics is changing, so workforce demographics is changing so rapidly,
Hmm.
and on the other hand, your business landscape is also evolving so rapidly.
Right.
So, what we are managers and leaders also, their capability needs to be uplifted at the same pace.
Hmm. Hmm.
Now, some people have that growth mindset and they will themselves evolve,
Hmm.
right? They will say that, okay, I need to learn, I need to change, so let me evolve, so I think life gives you life lessons all the time, right? I'm a parent, I have two children, I have a 16-year-old and an 11-year-old, and I am constantly learning from them. I'm
Yes.
learning how to be a better listener, I'm learning to be tolerant, I'm learning to really accept different perspectives even if I don't agree with them,
Hmm.
right? So for example, the choice of career that my son is right now choosing
Hmm.
might not be of my choice, but I am learning to accept it.
Hmm.
Now, all of these things, uh, sometimes we learn, but
Hmm.
some people come with a more rigid mindset.
Right.
Now, organizations need to help these people change and evolve so that they can become better managers and leaders. Otherwise, the changing ecosystem of business and the changing workforce will end up making these managers and leaders redundant.
Right. So, how should organizations do that, in your view?
I think there needs to be an identification
Hmm.
uh, of people, and there needs to be a significant investment in the right leadership qualities. And the leadership qualities are not the same that we were looking for 10 years back.
Hmm.
Today we are looking for being empathetic, being vulnerable, being curious, building psychological safety, handling diverse teams, giving constructive feedback. The very definition of feedback earlier used to be, what was your past performance? This is your rating, and being able to explain the rating.
Hmm.
Today, we are talking about, okay, past is past. How do I help you become a better version of yourself for the next 3 months, for the next 1 year?
Hmm.
Constructive feedback for future, right?
Right.
How do we make that mindset transition in the minds of leaders and managers? I think that is where organizations need to invest for managers and leaders. We
Hmm.
need to make managers and leaders understand that a company is a subunit of the society,
Hmm.
and the society is very diverse,
Hmm.
right? And for a minute, forget that diversity stands for women.
Hmm.
You know, there are people from all walks of life. There are people from different, I mean, India is so diverse. Um, there are 29 states, but just think about it. Every 200 kilometers, you go on a road trip.
Hmm.
Every 200 kilometers, your dialect changes. Even
Hmm.
if you're speaking Hindi, your dialect changes.
Hmm.
What is considered polite communication might change.
Hmm.
What is considered as a delicacy or your favorite food item changes.
Hmm.
What is celebrated. So, for example, I remember when I was in Hyderabad, my daughter was born, and I had a nanny for her, and she said that the Shera Hamara Eid hai.
Hmm.
Okay, so I want 5 days leave.
Okay. Hmm.
So I said, फिर दिवाली पे भी लोगे तुम? You will also take for Diwali. And she said, no, I don't want for Diwali. The Shera Hamara Eid hai.
Hmm.
Now look at this, equating the Shera to Eid,
Hmm.
then saying that Diwali is not so big for us. It is
Hmm.
the Shera,
Right.
right? Now, same country, right?
Hmm.
For us, because I belong to North India, I belong to Delhi. For me, it was all about, I mean, of course, we also celebrate the Shera. I made my children look at Ravan getting burnt and everything. But it was more about Diwali,
Right. Hmm.
right? And then saying the Shera Hamara Eid hai. That
Hmm.
is because there is a huge population in Hyderabad that also, would observe Ramazan. And, when there would be iftar in the evening, there would be these little shacks which would be selling little glass cups of halim so that people could break their fast.
Hmm.
right? So I think from a diversity perspective,
Hmm.
organizations, people, managers need to understand that if we need to capture the mindset of the consumer, whatever product I might be selling, whatever service I might be selling, I need a representation of the society in my company.
Hmm.
If I don't understand that, what is it that my consumer base wants?
Hmm.
How will I innovate on products?
Right.
How will I innovate on marketing communication?
Hmm.
Right? How will I innovate on processes?
Hmm.
Now, to if I keep on getting the same kind of people in my organization,
Hmm.
right, then I will only get one type of ideas. But when I get different kinds of people from different background, different education, different cultures, different ages, different gender,
Hmm.
then I get a diverse set of thoughts.
Hmm.
But people should then, managers should then be able to handle this diversity.
Hmm.
If I come, like, for example, we were speaking about introversion in the beginning. Suppose I have a team of 5 people, of which 4 people are extroverts and one is an introvert. And
Hmm.
that introvert doesn't speak in team meetings.
Hmm.
And these 4 people keep on speaking, 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 and that person keeps quiet. As a manager, it becomes my duty to ensure that that person gets an opportunity to speak up, to
Hmm.
get the confidence that his or her or their values and opinions and contributions are welcomed.
Right.
Right? Now, what does that mean for me as a manager to build my capability of observation,
Hmm.
of building trust,
Hmm.
of being able to communicate with that person,
Hmm.
of being able to tell that person that, listen, I have your back, you speak.
Right. Right.
Creating that environment, even if that person speaks and another person is trying to interrupt,
Hmm.
should be able to tell that other person, hang on, let this person speak.
Hmm.
Are you getting me? So I believe that managerial capability, leadership capability is key for organizations to succeed in anything today, whether it is to catch up with technological change, whether it is to catch up with all of these, sustainability changes that are happening,
Hmm.
whether it is for diversity, equity, and inclusion, in order to attract investment.
Hmm.
I think it is very important that we keep this population um, upgrade their capability.
Right. Right. Of course. So, you brought a very good point about diversity not just being about women or LGBTQ, but diversity is India is such a diverse country, and it is all about a little nuances and everything. So, how do you think that organizations should, truly inculcate diversity, equity, and inclusion in their way of working?
Hmm. So, very interestingly, when it initially started, this entire journey was about diversity hiring.
Hmm.
I don't know if you have noticed this. A lot of recruitment consultants would call up and say that we've got a mandate and they are looking for a diversity candidate.
Hmm.
Now, diversity candidate meant woman candidate.
Hmm.
Okay. Now, the focus used to be that let's hire. So the
Hmm.
entire strategy was recruitment forward.
Hmm.
Since all of this started somewhere around, see, I joined my first company in 2001, and at that time nobody was even talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Hmm.
It started somewhere around 2006, 7,
Hmm.
when at least some conversation started. If all of those women that were hired by different organizations would still be in companies, wouldn't we have a lot more women CEOs, women CHROs, women CFOs, women CTOs, isn't it? But that did not happen because what we saw was a phenomena of leaky bucket. Women kept joining and women kept leaving because they were not really in an inclusive environment.
Right.
So when organizations started realizing this, they said, okay, it's not just a recruitment forward. We need to first create an inclusive culture. We need to create a culture where diversity feels welcomed. We can nurture them. We can give them career paths. We have policies where they get proper medical facilities, they get a creche, etc., etc., etc. So then it became I and D, right? Inclusion, do inclusion, diversity will happen. If you create a good inclusive environment, diversity will happen. Then they realize that it is not just about talking inclusion, it has to be in practice also. Right? So then came the concept of equitable practices. How do you ensure? Because inclusion may, I can say that, Sonica and Anjali are the same. Let us give both of them equal opportunity to speak. Right? However, Sonica might be an extrovert or might be very talkative. Anjali might be a quieter person. Now, if both of us have the same manager, that manager will focus more on Anjali and say, Anjali, please speak more. So, equitable practices are more important, not equality.
Right.
So, then came E. Right? So the evolution has been from diversity, diversity, diversity to saying we need to be inclusive and therefore diversity, to saying inclusive, equitable practices, diversity, and now saying it is all actually all of these together lead to a sense of belonging. So it is now DEIB. When we drive inclusive culture, equitable practices, everybody, irrespective of their differences, feels a sense of belonging. When I feel a sense of belonging, I will leave no stone unturned to do well for my organization, to achieve success. And when every individual in the organization tries to achieve success in their KRAs, the organization wins. Right? So that is what is the journey has been. That is the evolution of DNI. Right? Now, as an organization, organizations need to see that as a whole, where are we? And also within it, because we talk to large business conglomerates, we speak to MNCs, and even if we are speaking to, let's say, a mid-sized company, there will be a head office, there will be a manufacturing unit, there will be branches, sales branches, and so on and so forth. The kind of maturity or acceptance that you might see at a corporate office might be very different from what you see in a manufacturing unit, which might be located in an SZZ in the outskirts of Ahmedabad or outskirts of Gurgaon in Manesar, in the outskirts of Pune or Jaipur, right? So the mindsets might be very different. Sales branches might be in very, very different locations. They can be in tier 1 town, tier 2 town, tier 3 town. So we need to do that diagnosis and then see what we need to do. Yeah.
So, in your view or analysis, how many of the organizations are actually following the concept of DEIP?
See, today, I think a lot of companies have at least started talking it. See, there are a lot of companies which are way, way ahead, and we all know their names, right? If you talk about, for example, some role models would be IBM, J&J, Citibank, some of these, and I'm not going by, all the awards which keep getting announced, but where I have spoken and I've really seen, some really great practices. I have spoken to informally. I know people in that organization where there is a lot of work which is happening. So there are some organizations where there is significant work happening. They have gone far, far ahead. And now they are even talking about racial and ethnic inclusion at a global level,
Hmm.
right? But then there are some organizations where they have started recognizing and they are doing some activities, but more sporadically.
Hmm.
Right. So, for example, International Women's Day will get celebrated. There will be some unconscious bias trainings which will be happening, or there will be some communication. There will be a lot of POSH training which will happen. Earlier, POSH training used to happen once a year and then forgotten. But now they say that we need to really make it a part of, now the external IC members are asked to do that periodic training.
Hmm.
Right. So, I think that increase in awareness is definitely making a difference. The other thing which is making a difference is that SEBI guidelines has come up with this BRSR, Business Responsibility Sustainable Reporting.
Hmm.
Now, this is right now applicable only to the top 150 organizations in India by market capitalization, but very soon, as of now, the plan is to take it to 1,000 organizations by 2027. But what is happening is that every investor or promoter or anyone who's wanting to put money in an organization is saying, show me if you're on path or not. So
Hmm.
whether you are in the top 150 or not, you have to start looking at what is BRSR.
Hmm.
Now, in BRSR, there is, of course, a lot of focus on environment. So whether your practices are environment friendly or not, there's a lot of focus on G, which is governance.
Hmm.
But there is S, which is social, which is all about people.
Hmm.
And in that, there is focus on inclusion of women and inclusion of persons with disability.
Hmm.
And the focus is not only on numbers,
Hmm.
it is also about pay gap, it is also about learning opportunities, also about promotions, right? So they are also looking at year on year movement in BRSR on these parameters.
Hmm.
So now every organization, there is no option but to look at these things,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
So it now has become a necessity. What I was saying earlier, right?
Hmm.
That what used to be a good to do because of the changing business landscape is now becoming a necessity,
Hmm.
which organizations really cannot escape anymore.
Hmm. Right. So does it also depend on the size of an organization?
I think that the earlier you start, see, once you are a big organization, 1,000 employees, 2,000 employees, then driving change is difficult. But
Hmm.
when you are 50 people, 100 people, starting from then,
Hmm.
what are inclusive behaviors? Let's not create barriers.
Hmm.
Let us not say that we will not hire women. If we get a good candidate who has a disability and can do the job, let's hire.
Hmm.
Is our office infrastructurally PWD friendly? Do we have the right software? And today, so many softwares like Google, etc., have inbuilt features
Hmm.
that are, that make things accessible.
Hmm.
So I think if we start that awareness early on and we normalize things early on, then we will not be in a situation where we have to change things when we have 10,000 people.
Right. Right, right. So we'll come to that point of HR and tech. But before that, when we're talking about diversity, so last month was also Pride Month, and we all talk about diversity and inclusion, or feeling making the LGBTQ community feel included in the workforce or in organizations. But recently I also did a story, and the response was very half and half. Ki, some people from the community felt that they felt included, but some were also like they still feel that people view them with a different sort of lens, right? So how do you think that we can create a difference in that sense?
See, first of all, I don't think the community is wrong.
Hmm.
Okay. Um, Almost 200 years of social conditioning where the population of India has been told that homosexuality is a crime or it is an illness. Um, it will take time to uproot that, first of all. When I do sessions, okay, so there is LGBTQIA plus,
Hmm.
right? It takes me a long time for making people understand that being intersex is not a deformity. It is another gender. उनको लगता है कि you know पहले तो there used to be male child and female child, and
Hmm.
if a child was born intersex then वो community आके ले जाती थी क्योंकि वो deformity होती थी. Deformity नहीं है, वो another gender है.
Hmm.
Right? What is the difference between transgender and intersex?
Hmm.
So अभी तो ये awareness level पे ही बहुत कम है, तो acceptance कहाँ से होगी?
Right. Right.
The second thing is सिर्फ प्राइड मंथ सेलिब्रेट करने से इंक्लूजन तो नहीं हो जाता. Also about promotions, right? So they are also looking at year on year movement in BRSR on these parameters.
Hmm.
How many people know that 8th July to 14th July is non-binary awareness week?
Hmm.
How many organizations are doing an event around it?
Hmm.
Forget about doing something great. Call somebody from the community and do a talk. What does it mean? Why are we even celebrating it?
Right.
Right? There are so many days. There is Lesbian Awareness Month. There is Coming Out Day. There is through the year we have created a Pride calendar. Every month there is something. There is Bisexual Awareness Week. Right? Why do we need to only look at June?
Hmm.
So when the community feels that the attempt is just tokenized,
Hmm.
that July, June में कर दिया और tick mark हो गया.
Hmm.
Because now you can put it in your report, ना जो भी आपको reporting दिखानी है, आपको investor को कोई report देनी है. We celebrated Pride Month.
Hmm.
But how many people do you have in the organization?
Hmm.
Let's take any organization of 10,000 employees.
Hmm.
And then when they say that we don't have anybody in the organization yet, I challenge them. I say, I'm telling you, there will be people, but they are in the closet
Right.
because they are scared to come out, that they will be discriminated against, they will be made fun of, they will be mocked, which means you have not created an environment which wherein they feel psychologically safe.
Hmm.
Why don't you ask people to use pronouns in their emails?
Hmm.
Have you educated people about pronouns? Does your medical policy even include gender affirmative surgeries, hormonal therapies, psychotherapies? Does your EAP have a person who can help people from the community with their traumas?
Hmm.
Do you have medical policy which says same sex couples are also covered?
Hmm.
When you've not created an inclusive environment, even if you have people within the company, why will they come out and tell you?
Right.
If your policy only says in leave policy, he, she can take leave of XYZ, why
Hmm.
can't you say he, she, they?
Hmm.
Why only maternity leave, paternity leave? Why not parental leave, adoption leave?
Hmm.
So I think there is a lot of distance to be covered from saying that we are inclusive, we are doing sessions, to saying we are celebrating Pride Month,
Hmm.
to actually taking action.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So, how do you think that companies can bridge that gap of creating awareness apart from, just holding those sessions in particular months?
So it has to be a programmatic approach.
Mm.
So, as I said, you have to make a plan. You have to first work on your policies. You have to normalize usage of certain things, certain words, language, inclusive language. What are pronouns, for example? Um, what are the meanings of some of these words? What jokes are? What is bystander intervention? What is allyship? What is advocacy? Now, suppose there is a person in my team who joins, and that person is from the community, and that person tells me that the person is from the community. It is not my job to go and tell the team, this person is from the community.
Hmm.
It is up to that person to tell the team when that person feels comfortable.
Right.
The only thing I can do is to create an inclusive environment where the team is sensitive, empathetic, aware.
Hmm. Right.
So I recall there was this one interview that we had done with this lady, and she had a same sex partner. She joined a company and everybody said, we are very inclusive, we don't mind everything. And then there was an annual day which was being celebrated, in which everybody was told to get their partners, spouses, and so on. The HR called her and said that, listen, please don't get your partner. And she said, why?
Hmm.
Because we don't know how the partners of other people, the wives of other people, or husbands of other people might react when they see the two of you together.
Hmm.
And she said, which means they've not really accepted me for who I am. This is not inclusion, this is performative,
Hmm.
right? So I think these are the things that we need to question. So I think it is a journey, and we have to take one step at a time. Let's at least work on our policies. Let's communicate them. Let's encourage people. Let's sensitize people. Let's teach them about different words.
Hmm.
Um, we have to start somewhere.
Right, right, right. So, as we were speaking about HR, it is a very important part of an organization. How do you think that HR has evolved for an organization over the years, or should now where do we see the scope as well?
I think, it's very interesting. I sometimes say that organization is like a body.
Hmm.
Okay. Um, if your strategy
Hmm.
function is the brain,
Hmm.
and finance is your right arm, HR is your left arm.
Hmm.
Okay. And sales, supply chain is your feet, your last mile execution.
Hmm.
And the culture is the oxygen and the blood which flows into the body. I feel that HR has really evolved to be a strategic HR business partner, because today you can, for any organization, your product will become obsolete, and you will continue to innovate, you will continue to upgrade, you will continue to evolve.
Hmm.
Right? Um, your processes will need upgradation all the time.
Hmm.
Hmm? However, and your technology, I mean, we know how fast technology changes. But who is it that who goes and sells your products? Who is it that who goes and builds relationships with clients and customers and suppliers and negotiates and creates a goodwill for your organization?
Hmm.
It is people. People are the only asset in your organization that appreciate with time. And I am not just saying this as a phrase.
Hmm.
आप कोई भी machine, the day you put it in a factory, it starts depreciating,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
But look at a human being. I join a company. I am learning every day. I'm learning from experience. I'm learning by interacting with people. I'm learning in terms of the work that I'm doing, getting new exposure, overcoming new challenges, etc. Plus, the way I am treated will also convert into loyalty, right? So, a loyal human being, employee who feels a sense of belonging, who feels that this company cares for me, is the best asset a company can have. Now, this is where I think HR plays a very critical role. How do we get companies, leadership, management strategically to understand how do we balance between business imperatives and people imperatives? Right? We saw a lot of, and we are still seeing, right? We read about layoffs so much. We saw a lot of people losing their jobs in COVID. I understand that there is a budgetary constraint, but have we ever thought that what are we doing to the long-term economy if we create such a high level of unemployment? Economy is cyclic.
Right.
Today, if I have money, I will go, I will buy what I need. I will buy a fridge what I want. Food is something I need. But what I want a bigger fridge. I want new ACs. I want a bigger TV. All of this I will buy only if I have extra cash in hand.
Right.
That will only happen if there is employment at home. When I go and put that money in the economy, there is GST which goes to the company. There are people who are paying taxes. I am paying a tax to the government. That tax, if properly used, will go into the country's infrastructure, education institutes, into hospitals, into transport, into aviation, into railways, into electricity, water, whatever. When that happens, you attract more international investment.
Right.
The more you create unemployment, saying अभी तो हमारे पास टेक्नोलॉजी है, हमको डिजिटल मार्केटिंग के लिए नहीं चाहिए, what are you doing? Right? So somewhere I think sense has to prevail and say that yes, technology is very good. It drives productivity, but it should change jobs. So I'll give you a very simple example, okay? Earlier, we used to have these employee engagement surveys. I remember a time there used to be this thick booklet which used to come, and we used to get a pencil and eraser, and we used to circle the answer. It used to take 1 hour to fill it up. And then we used to give it, and then it used to take 6 months for somebody to analyze all the answers and give a report. Today, because of automation, you can do it at the click of a button. Right. The report comes really fast. So which means that the HR person looking at employee engagement and retention can know within a week that this is what people are saying. Then the HR person is focused on solutioning, creating strategies for employee engagement, retention, how to make them more productive. Earlier, there used to be 100 people only for the execution of the employee engagement survey, and you don't need that. But now those 100 people can help you drive a strategy for 10,000 people on making sure that if people are asking for learning and development, can we design an in-house program and run it for 10,000 people? Or even if we need to do a TTT through an external consultant, let us get ourselves trained and do it for 10,000 people.
Right.
So the role changes, the roles evolve.
Hmm.
And the same thing can happen in every function where you use more strategic, but role evolution.
Hmm.
You upskill people to take on higher strategic roles, more value added roles. You encourage people to take on courses, maybe at their own time or their own this thing, or you incentivize them.
Hmm.
Say that, okay, if you pass, then the company will pay 50% and you bear 50%.
Hmm.
So let's say tomorrow I go for a course which costs me 2 lakhs. So the
Hmm.
company says, if you complete it successfully, we will take 50, we will bear 50%, you bear 50%.
Hmm.
Just an example,
Right.
right? Now, this is where I think it- let's not be penny wise, pound foolish.
Hmm.
Let's not, go and sit on the axe ourselves
Hmm.
by rampantly laying off people and creating um, a state of unemployment where it becomes difficult for people to spend, difficult for people to have a lifestyle that they aspire for, and therefore it impoverishes the country's economy
Hmm. Hmm.
or the world's economy.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So technology has to be an enabler, not a destination.
Hmm. Right, right. So for someone who is joining, as an HR for an organization in this technologically advanced business landscape, so what are the key things that they should keep in mind?
Firstly, they should keep in mind how to use the data that technology gives. Second, they should not blindly depend on the data. Once in a while, they should do a human dipstick.
Hmm.
This I'm going to say something. This is not something which I have created. I heard it in a conference a week back. This
Hmm.
is Ashwini Parashar of who's a CHRO of RIL hydrocarbon. He said something beautiful.
Hmm.
He said that there is a birthday card digitally signed. There is a person who sits next to me and he receives the birthday card very happy.
Hmm.
He's sitting next to me since morning. I've not even wished him.
Hmm.
What's the point?
Yeah, right.
Right? So I believe that for HR, it is very important to use technology for creating a good employee experience, not replacing the human touch.
Hmm.
And also to check, also please understand that today all this talk about generative AI, machine learning, where is generative AI taking information from? World Wide Web. World Wide Web has been fed data by human beings like you and me.
Right.
And people like you and me are biased.
Hmm.
We cannot rely on technology blindly.
Right.
So if you ask Chat GPT, make an article for me on women empowerment,
Hmm.
you cannot rely on Chat GPT to make up an article which would be really intelligent,
Hmm.
right? It would collect information from 10,000 places and maybe create something, but you have to apply yourself. You have to add your own touch,
Right.
right? So I think I would say don't place you because it has your employee experience and customer experience cannot be compromised. Today, when I see, as a very frequent Zomato user, when I see a canned response from a chatbot, it irritates me to hell, right? And I'm sure it does for others as well. Yesterday, somebody hacked into our YouTube channel. I've been trying to get in touch with Google. I've been getting chatbot responses one after the other. Not a happy customer at all.
Hmm.
So that should not happen. I think in cases of emergency and cases like this, you cannot do away with that customer touch or employee touch, that human touch. That's number one. Secondly, you need to do a dipstick to make sure that your technology is throwing up correct data and information and unbiased. Third, use it for repetitive um, data collection or analytical uses, not for people decisions. So, if you need technology for sifting to 10,000 resumes, sure. But if you need it for saying that who are the top 10 and the bottom 10 in the performance appraisal this year, no. Right? So yeah, so these are some of the things that I would tell people to be very careful about.
Right, right. And when it comes to HR and tech, one another trend that is, making waves is about hiring using tech. So one part of it is utilizing tech in HR, and the other part of it is the futuristic vision when actually some robots or hiring will be happening in metaverse kind of scene, right? So what are your views on that vision?
See, it depends on how well it is done. I am not against technology at all. If I can interview you, or you can interview me in a metaverse, thinking we are sitting in front of you, you can see my body language, you can evaluate me, my personality, the non-verbal cues, and take a decision to hire or not hire without getting biased. If metaverse can enable that, then sure.
Right.
What's wrong with it? Because then I am not spending time in commute, isn't it?
Right.
But then we really have to make it as realistic as possible. We need to ensure that your technology, your connections, both at the place of um, the candidate and the interviewer have no glitches, right? Because what I have found is that, when you go for in-person interviews, invariably there's a long wait,
Right.
which really puts off candidates. But when it is blocked in your calendar for a virtual interview, you are never late.
Right.
Right? And then in today's, if you're in Bangalore, travel is a nightmare. If you're in Bombay, travel is a nightmare. If you're in Gurgaon, travel is a nightmare. So if it can take away that pain, then why not? But of
Right.
course, then it has to be supported by a lot of things.
Right. So we spoke about, what should an HR have when they're, adopting that role. But what should an organization, on the other hand, look for when they are, building their HR department?
Very good question.
Mm.
Uh, See, one size does not fit all. I think when and there can't be one straight answer to it. I think they need to look at an HR team which is willing to evolve with time. And that starts with the leadership. Okay. And HR leadership, see, HR is the custodian of the culture of the organization. They are not the ones who are accountable or responsible. I think accountability and responsibility needs to be spread across every people manager, because people experience an organization through the people manager. But the tools, the practices, the policies, which become very important for driving the culture, those are things which HR creates. So I think also we need HR who takes pride in being HR and can stand up to the business for doing the right thing. So very often we do a lot of strategic HRBP certifications. And I always tell my participants that When you do something, when a business manager comes and says कि ये training करानी है, you are just an executor. But when you analyze that what is going wrong in a particular territory, when you go to the market and you figure out that what are the behaviors that the sales team is doing wrong or the service team is doing wrong, and you go back to business and say that this is the capability that needs to be built, whether they like it or not, for 4 hours, for 6 hours, we need to run this training because this is where we are losing customers, this is where we are losing brand reputation. That is where you are adding value.
Right.
So I think somewhere that mindset shift is very important in HR. That they are not merely executors because business had asked them to run payroll, business had asked them to do L&D, businesses asked them to do engagement survey, businesses asked them to recruit. HR enables business through people. HR should go and say, why do you need 5 people? Because if one person, if you have a budget of 8 CR revenue, how can one team member generate 2 CR? What is needed for that one? What capability is needed? What enabling tools are needed? What tracking mechanisms are needed? What governance models are needed? The moment HR gets into that, that is when HR really becomes the left hand.
Right.
Right. So I think we need those kind of conversations between business and HR. So I would say HR, which is business savvy, HR, which takes pride in being HR and demands a place on the table, and HR, which is agile and ready to evolve and is not living in what happened 10 years back.
Right.
हमने तो ये किया था और ऐसे ही चलता आ रहा है. Doesn't work anymore.
Right. Right. So lastly, we want to understand how marching sheep is making a difference in this diverse business landscape.
Yeah. So, see, we are an 11-year-old firm and we are a purpose-driven firm. We work in 4 areas, of which diversity, equity, and inclusion is approximately 60% of our work. But apart from DEI, we also work in the space of leadership development, assessment centers, talent management, employee health and well-being. So these are some of the areas. So you could say that except for recruitment, we don't do recruitment, but how do you create capacity and culture in an organization for high performance teams is what we do. And our purpose is to make a tangible difference to people's lives and careers. See, in 2012, I was heading HR for Philips in India for their consumer lifestyle business. And before that, I was with AkzoNobel, again in a HR partnering role, strategic HR partnering role for half of their population. My biggest issue used to be that whenever we would do something with well-known consultants, they would come and do an intervention with a big bang. We would book a 5-star hotel, we would take everybody there, good food, evening there would be a party also. There would be a huge bill of the consultant, the logistics, everything. But after the intervention, there would be no behavior change. Now, if there is no behavior change, then how will we get business change in business results? So when I started marching sheep and I was building my team, and even now when we speak, our focus with the clients always is that what is the difference that we are trying to drive? And let us focus on those 1 or 2 outcomes. Let us not be in a hurry when you are trying to drive a difference. Suppose if you are trying to say that, okay, we are working with people managers and they need to become more empathetic, they need to become more curious so that they can build high performance inclusive teams. Now, I can't expect them that, they will attend one session and they will change overnight. So there has to be a series of reinforcements. Now, the client is not going to continuously pay me, na? So what is it that I can enable the client with? So can I give you small micro learning sessions after I have done the session? Can I give you small articles or WhatsApp reinforcements that even after I have done the session, every week internal HR can keep on sending? Right? What are some of the projects that can be given after our session is over so that you can check whether people are applying the learnings or not?
Right.
When is it, what are the metrics that you need to track pre the program? See, everybody takes feedback on programs. And after the program, you tell me one uh, facilitator or training which gets a rating less than 4.5, because everybody is so happy,
Right.
right? But that is not a measure of how effective the training has been. But if you've done an intervention, you started the year in April, you did an intervention in June, and then did a series of follow-ups after that. And then you again do a measure of some metrics in December. Is there a delta? If there is a delta, then your intervention is effective. It has done its job.
Right.
So that is what we tell our clients कि देखो करने को तो हम चांद तारे तोड़ लाऊं गाना गा सकते हैं, but let's do something which makes a difference. And I always say, let's work as a team. The clients and us become a team. That is when magic happens.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you have worked, you must have worked with a lot of clients by now, but do you have a one specific story to end the podcast with where you were, actually able to make a difference and that was a and create magic and you still remember that one particular client and working with them?
There are many,
I know.
but I'll tell you what really makes me happy. So I get messages from people who have attended my sessions or have been a part of a transformation journey from 2016, 2015. And that makes me happy that these people still remember me, which means that somewhere I could make a difference. So
Right.
I am living up to my purpose. So, for example, there is this one girl who had attended our program on career intentionality. This girl sent me her wedding card. She said, "Ma'am, it is in Indore and I want you to come." I said, "Babu, I'm in Delhi and I will also be traveling at that time, so mushkil hoga." So she sent me a message saying that I followed everything that we discussed in the program. I did not leave my job. I continued to work. I tried to get a transfer, but my company did not have an Indore. So I changed my job. I told that, I will work for 1 year, build my credibility in my new organization before I get married. So felt very nice. Then 3 days back, I was doing an interview on NDTV, and one of my participants messaged saying, "Watching you on TV live." Again, an old participant, 3 years back. Then another on International Women's Day, I get so many messages from participants from 2014, 15, either on LinkedIn or on WhatsApp, because my number's not changed. So I get messages on how I'm doing, how are things at Marching Sheep, any more programs happening. Have changed company. We are in this company now. We will tell our HR to call you. So whether that happens or not is not important. But the fact is that they still remember me.
Right. Right.
And when that happens, I just get this smile on my face. And my team says that you look like a fool. You're grinning for no reason. And I'm like, doesn't matter. I can look like a fool, but I'm happy.
No, of course, I think that's what we all are working for, that inner peace and that inner happiness. And if creating an impact and being remembered is making us happy, that's what we all want. That's great. And I'll add on to that this conversation has been amazing, and I am going to definitely remember you. And
You.
I look forward to having more such amazing conversations. Thank you so much, Sonica, for joining us today. Thank you for this insightful conversation, and we are definitely going to have another session super soon.
Thank you so much. And Anjali, I must commend you for your patient listening. I think there were times when I went on and on and on, but I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Means a lot.
Right. Bye bye.
तो कैसा लगा आप लोगों को आज का पॉडकास्ट? आई होप काफी इंसाइटफुल, काफी इंटरेस्टिंग रहा होगा, और ये कॉन्वर्सेशन मेरे लिए ही इतनी फ्रूटफुल रही थी. एंड मोर देन दैट, इट वाज इन द फॉर्म ऑफ स्टोरीज, इन द फॉर्म ऑफ learning while also enjoying the conversation. It was a great conversation, and I hope you were able to learn some important concepts simply. और अगर आपकी और भी कोई क्वेश्चंस हैं, कोई सवाल हैं जो आपको पूछने हैं सोनिका से, यू कैन ऑलवेज reach out to her. We have mentioned the credentials of Marching Sheep, their social handles. You can reach out directly to them, or if you want to be a part of my podcast, our podcast, Kahaniyaan by Tookwings blog, I am always open to have you on my podcast. So आपकी कहानी क्या है, मैं जानने में बहुत ही ज्यादा interested हूँ. So let's have a podcast together, guys.